Meet Nadine, 49 years old, 17 years on school bus Route 41, and right now she's holding at a timing point on Chalmers Street with the doors open and 3 minutes on the clock before she's allowed to pull away. She knows her checking balance without looking at it. That's not a talent. That's what happens when the same number shows up in the same place every month for years. Here's the number. Between the 3rd and the 8th, Nadine owes $1,412. Rent on the 3rd, $860. Internet on the 4th, $70. Car insurance on the 5th, $118. Phone on the 6th, $94. Credit card minimum on the 7th, $90. Electric on the 8th, $180. Her paycheck lands on the 1st. It's $1,240. So she's short $172. Not short for the month, she gets another $1,240 on the 15th, and across the whole month she takes home $2,480 against $1,722 in dated bills. On paper, she has $758 of room. On paper, she's fine. She's short for 6 days. 6 days, 12 times a year. And last month, sitting right here at this timing point with the doors open, she paid the $94 phone bill on the 6th with a credit card, the same credit card whose $90 minimum payment was due the next morning. She paid a bill with the thing she was about to owe money to. She knew exactly what she was doing. She did it anyway because the alternative was a $34 overdraft, and $34 buys 2 days of groceries. If your money disappears before your next payday and you can't point to what you bought, this video is not about what you spend, not 1 minute of it. It's about when your money and your bills stand in the same place and what happens when they never do. Because there's a version of Nadine's month where nothing about her income changes, nothing about her bills changes, and the $172 hole closes permanently. Same pay, same everything. One sitting, about 20 minutes, and then it's done and she never touches it again. So before we go anywhere, if your paycheck stopped today, how many days of breathing room would you actually have? Not months, days. Hold that number, because by the end of this, you're going to know exactly why it's that small, and it's not the reason you've been telling yourself. Nadine's hold time runs out. She closes the doors and pulls away from a corner where nobody was standing. Remember that corner. We're coming back to it. Here's what Nadine believed for 17 years, that she was bad with money. Not dramatically bad. She's never bought anything she couldn't explain. Her car is 9 years old. She cuts her own hair. When her sister got married, she gave $50 and a card and felt sick about the $50 for a week. She just knew that other people ended the month with something left, and she ended it with a card balance that never went below $600, and the only explanation anyone had ever offered her was that she must be doing something wrong that she couldn't see. So look at her month again, and look at it as a driver, not as an accountant. Total money in, $2,480. Total dated bills out, $1,722. She's got room. But her bills are not spread across her month. Between the 3rd and the 8th, 6 of them land $1,412 worth, and in the entire back half of her month, from the 15th onward, she owes $310. Water, $58, a store card, $52, a credit union loan, $200. $1,412 on one side, $310 on the other. Same income, same bills. 2 completely different lives depending on which week you're standing in. That's the trap, and it has a name that Nadine's been saying out loud since 2009, just never about money. The misalignment. Every school bus route has timing points. A timing point is a place where you're supposed to be at an exact minute. Not early, not late, exact. And here's the thing every driver learns in the first month, and nobody outside the yard ever understands. You can drive a perfect route and still break it by being early. You roll up on time by your watch, the doors open, and there's nobody standing there yet. So you pull away, and 2 minutes later there's a kid on that corner with no bus, and it is not their fault, and it is not the route's fault, and the miles were all correct. The bus was in the right place at the wrong time. That's Nadine's paycheck. On the first, the doors open, $1,240 walks out into an account where 4 days of ordinary life are standing in front of a rent payment, groceries, gas, the copay, the thing her granddaughter needed for school. Every one of them real, every one of them small, all of them standing at the stop before the bills got there. By the 8th, the doors have closed and the money's gone up the road and the electric bill is standing on an empty corner. You were never bad at this. Your calendar was. The night that changed was a Thursday in October, and it wasn't a crisis. That's the part Nadine still finds strange. She'd just gotten off a late activity run and she was standing in her hallway with the mail, and there was a notice from the electric company. Not a shutoff, a late fee, $35, third one that year. And she caught herself doing the things she'd been doing since her 40s started, the math where you work out how many hours of driving a $35 fee costs you, and the answer is always ugly, and you do it anyway like it's a punishment you're owed. And she stopped in the middle of it and thought, I paid this bill. I paid it on the 11th. It was due on the 8th. I had the money on the 15th. She wasn't short, she was late. 17 years of believing she couldn't manage money, and the actual problem was that her electric company wanted its money on the 8th and her employer paid her on the 15th, and no human being had ever put those two facts in the same sentence. So she made a decision, standing there in the hallway, and I want to be precise about what the decision was, because it wasn't, I'll try harder, and it wasn't, I'll cut back. It was, I'm not going to be the one who moves anymore. 17 years of Nadine rearranging her life around 6 dates that were assigned to her by 6 companies that have never met her. 6 dates that were chosen by a billing system, not by God. She wasn't going to earn more, she wasn't going to spend less, she was going to move the dates. And here's what she said to herself, which is the whole reason this stuck when nothing else did. I'm tired of asking my money to be somewhere it isn't. That's the decision. Not a budget, not a system. One sentence about who she was done being. If you've ever paid a fee on money you actually had, you already know this feeling. The question is whether you're going to do the 20 minutes. Let's talk about what the misalignment actually costs, because it is never the number you'd guess. Start with the fees, since they're the easiest to see. Nadine paid 3 late fees last year at $35 each and 2 overdraft charges at $34. That's $173. Then the card. She carried about $172 forward every month at 26.9%, which cost her roughly $140 in interest across the year, $313. That's the visible bill for being 6 days out of step. Real money, but not life-changing money, and if that were all of it, I wouldn't have made this video. Here's the part that costs more. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau studied overdrafts and found something that should be printed on the front of every bank statement in the country. The median debit card transaction that triggers an overdraft was about $24, and the median negative balance was back in the black within 3 days. 3 days, $24. Sit with that. The accounts that get charged $34 are not accounts that are empty for a month. They're accounts that are empty for a Tuesday and a Wednesday for the price of a $24 purchase in a country where the money is usually already on its way. That is not a story about how much money people have. It's a story about which days it's in the room. Now the second cost, and this is the one Nadine paid every single month without ever seeing an invoice for it. Researchers Shah, Mullainathan, and Shafir published work in Science in 2012 showing what happens to decision-making when resources get tight. People in the tight condition didn't just have less. They started borrowing from their next round, aggressively, in ways that made them worse off overall. And crucially, the tunnel showed up because the window was tight, not because the total was small. Give someone a comfortable total and a brutal week, and they'll make brutal week decisions. That's Nadine on the 5th. On the 5th, she is not a woman with $2,480 a month. She's a woman with $172 missing, and every decision she makes on the 5th is made by that woman, including the one where she pays a phone bill with a credit card while sitting at a timing point on Chalmers Street. And then there's the third cost, which doesn't show up in any study, but you already know it if you've lived it. She's never off duty. Every purchase between the 1st and the 8th goes through a checkpoint in her head. Every text from her daughter that starts with, "Hey, quick question," makes her stomach drop before she's read it. That's not a personality. That's what a person becomes when 6 days a month are load-bearing. So what does this change for your actual wallet? It means the money you're trying to find is not hiding in your spending. It's sitting in the wrong week. And moving something costs nothing. Now here's the fact that made Nadine put her hand over her mouth in her own hallway. Almost every company that bills you on a date will change that date if you ask. Utilities, phone carriers, insurers, credit cards, internet. It's a routine request, it's usually free, and for most of them it takes one call and under 6 minutes. They don't advertise it, it's not on the bill and it's not in the app, but it's a standard feature of the billing system, sitting there since before Nadine got her CDL. And the reason almost nobody uses it isn't that it's hard, it's that the date feels like it came down from somewhere. The 8th feels like a fact about the world, the way the first bell at 7:22 was a fact about the world. It's printed, it's been printed for years, and it arrives with a logo on it. It's a setting. Somebody typed it in once. There's research from the U.S. Financial Diaries Project. Jonathan Morduch and Rachel Schneider tracked working households week by week for a year instead of asking them about their year. And what they found is that the annual picture and the weekly picture were different stories about different families. Households whose income and expenses balanced fine over 12 months were in serious trouble in specific weeks, over and over. And the trouble never showed up in the annual number because the annual number is an average, and nobody lives inside an average. You do not live in a year. You live in a week. And the week is where all of this is decided, which means the thing standing between Nadine and the end of a 17-year problem is 4 phone calls she's never made to 4 companies who will say yes about a setting she didn't know was a setting. Let's find out which week is doing this to you. You don't need paper for this, and I'm not going to ask you to go get anything. Do it while I talk. Name your biggest bill, the one that would ruin a week. Now name the day it's due. Now, name the payday that's supposed to cover it. The actual paycheck, not the money in general. For most people watching, those two things are more than 7 days apart. That's it. That's the whole diagnosis. Nadine's rent was due on the 3rd, and the money that could comfortably cover it arrived on the 15th, 12 days late for its own appointment. Now, the number I want you to work out, because it's the one that tells you how bad the misalignment is, I'm calling it your heavy half. Here's the formula. The dollars due in the days right after one paycheck minus the dollars due in the days right after the next one. That's it. Big side minus small side. 3 examples so you can find yourself in one of them. If you're paid every 2 weeks like Nadine, hers was $1,412 against $310. Heavy half of $1,102. Her month wasn't one month, it was a hard month and an easy month glued together, and she'd been calling both of them the month. If you're paid weekly, say $480 a week, you might have $610 landing in week 1 and $95 in week 2, heavy half of $515. Smaller number, same shape, and it's arguably worse because a $610 wall against a $480 check is a wall you hit before you've had a chance to breathe. And if you're paid once a month, this one is the sharpest. All $3,100 of your dated bills clear in the first 9 days, and the last 12 days of your month have $0 due, heavy half of $3,100. Which means you spend 9 days as a person who has nothing and 12 days as a person who feels rich, and one of those 2 people is doing your grocery shopping. Now say the other one out loud, your collision week, just the week of your month with the most due dates crammed into it. You don't calculate this one, you already know it, and I'd bet you knew it before I finished the sentence. Nadine's was the first week. She'd never said it out loud in 17 years, and when she did, the first thing she felt wasn't panic, it was relief, because a week is a thing you can move. A character flaw isn't.
So on that Thursday night in October, Nadine sat down and made 4 phone calls. Total time, 22 minutes, including 2 minutes on hold with the electric company. Here's what she said, and it's the same sentence every time. My pay dates are the 1st and the 15th. I'd like my due date moved to the 17th. That's the whole script. No explanation, no apology, no story about her month. Every one of them said yes. One asked if she wanted the 16th instead. This is the same week rule, and it's 1 line long. Every bill moves into the same week as the paycheck that pays it. Not the same month, the same week, because the month was never the unit. The week is the unit. Money that arrives on the 15th cannot defend a bill that shows up on the 8th, no matter how much of it there is. And no amount of being careful will teach it to time travel. Here's what Nadine moved. Electric, $180, from the 8th to the 17th. Phone, $94, from the 6th to the 18th. Car insurance, $118, from the 5th to the 19th. Credit card, $90, from the 7th to the 20th. $482 relocated. Not reduced, not renegotiated, relocated. And her month came out like this. First half, rent $860 and internet $70, so $930 against a $1,240 check, $310 of daylight. Second half, her original $310 plus the $482 she moved, so $792 against a $1,240 check, $448 of daylight. Both halves solvent, both halves boring. Nothing else in her life changed by 1 inch. If you saw the episode about the man who kept $100 bill whole in his wallet all week, this is that same shape standing in a different room. One object, one rule, nothing to write down, except here the object is a date. Now, this is a one-time action, and the one-time part is the entire point. There is nothing to track, no categories, no envelopes, no app, no weekly check-in, no monthly review, no number she has to keep in her head. On day 40 of this system, there is no decision for Nadine to make, and that's the entire reason it survived when everything else she tried didn't. She made 4 phone calls in October. It's now August. She has not thought about it since. And the emotional payoff isn't the $448. It's that the 5th of the month became an ordinary day. Not a good day, an ordinary one. After 17 years, 6 days a month quietly stopped being load-bearing, and she didn't get that by becoming a better person. She got it by moving 4 dates. Now let me tell you what it actually cost, because I'm not going to sell you 4 phone calls as a free lunch. 3 things. The first is money, and it's small. Moving the credit card's due date stretched one statement cycle to 38 days, which cost her about $11 in extra interest, one time. The insurer prorated the shift and charged $19. Total damage? $30. She paid it once and it never came back. The second is that it didn't work on everything. Her landlord said no. Rent stays on the 3rd, and that's normal, and there was no version of that call where he said yes. The internet company would only move her 4 days to the 8th, which wasn't far enough to matter. So Nadine did not end up with a beautiful, symmetrical month. She ended up with $930 due against a $1,240 check in her first week, which works, but works with $310 of room, not $600. 4 out of 6 moved. That was the real result, and 4 out of 6 closed the hole. The third cost is the one that nearly stopped her, and it has nothing to do with money. Nadine has spent her whole working life being the person who doesn't make things difficult. She covers other people's routes. She's never once called the yard to say she can't. When the district changed the bell schedule and gutted her afternoon, she rearranged her life and said nothing. Because being easy to work with is not a habit for her. It's who she is, and she is proud of it in a way that she'd have trouble explaining to you. So asking 4 companies to move their dates for her felt like standing up in a room and announcing that she couldn't handle her own money. She sat with the phone in her hand for a long time before the first call, long enough that she got up, found a pen, and wrote the sentence out on the back of a route sheet. My pay dates are the 1st and the 15th, because she knew that if she had to build it in her mouth while a stranger listened, she'd soften it. She'd add a "sorry to bother you." She'd explain. And explaining is how you talk yourself out of something you were already allowed to have. 16 words on the back of a route sheet, so she wouldn't apologize for asking. What got her through it was noticing that she had this exactly backwards. Being easy to work with had never once meant letting somebody else's convenience cost her $313 a year. It meant showing up, doing the route, doing it right. Those 4 dates weren't a favor anybody was doing her. They were a default nobody had ever asked her about. You can be the person who never makes a fuss and still say, the 8th doesn't work for me. Here's the honest limitation, and I'd rather you hear it from me. Moving a due date does not create $1. If your bills genuinely exceed your income across a full month, alignment will not save you. It'll just show you the gap more clearly, sooner, and that's a different video. And I'll go further. There's good research by Carlin, McConnell, Mulanathan, and Zinman showing that reminder-based nudges do raise savings, but by something like 6%. Small and attention-based fixes fade as people stop noticing them. That's exactly the trap this could have fallen into. The only reason this one doesn't fade is that after the 22 minutes, there's nothing left for Nadine to pay attention to. The date's changed. Dates don't get tired.
3 months in, here's what Nadine had actually kept: $560. I want to say that plainly instead of dressing it up, because you can do arithmetic and you're going to reach for the back button in about 9 seconds. $560 over 3 months. That is not an impressive number, and it's worse than that. Back in March 2021, she tried the obvious thing, the thing everybody tells you: get a month ahead. Put $200 aside every payday until you've got a cushion. And by that July, she'd built it to $980. She got further with the old broken plan than she did in her first 3 months with the fix. So here's the defense, and it's the whole reason this episode exists. That $980 was borrowed money that hadn't been collected yet. It died in July when the electric came in high in the same week as insurance and rent, and she took $760 of it straight back out. And then August arrived, and to stay on schedule, she owed the plan $200 and the $760 she'd taken. And that's the month it actually died. Not the month she failed, the month after. Same shape in February 2023 when she put everything on autopay and decided automation would think for her. That one died in April when 2 autopays fired 2 days before the 15th. The bank charged her $68 in overdrafts and took those fees before her paycheck landed. May was the month she had to skip the card payment to catch up, and she never turned autopay back on. Neither of those died because the number was too small. They died because a miss in a collision week creates a debt to your own plan, and catching up becomes the price of continuing. Nobody keeps paying that price for long, and it doesn't say anything about you that you stopped. Nadine's $560 has now survived 2 collision weeks, including one that would have killed the 2021 version outright. And go back to the CFPB finding. The median overdraft was triggered by a $24 purchase and cured in 3 days. The protection threshold in real life is not a fully funded cushion. It's whether the money is standing in the same 7 days as the bill. That's it. That's the bar. It's days, not dollars, and it's a lot lower than anybody told you. Which brings us to Alvin. Alvin parks 4 spaces down from Nadine at the yard. Same district, same pay scale, same route length, and, this matters, the same intentions. He heard the same advice everybody hears, and he did the obvious version of it. Automatic transfer, $200 every payday into a separate savings account. Started the same year Nadine did. Over 12 months, Alvin moved $4,800 into that account. He ended the year with $460. 11 withdrawals, and I want to be clear about him because it would be easy and wrong to make him the cautionary tale. Alvin is not lazy, and he did not blow it. Every single one of those 11 withdrawals was a real bill landing in a week that had no money in it. He was paying his insurance, he was paying his electric, he built a bucket and then spent the year carrying water out of it with both hands, because the bucket was in the second week and the fire was always in the first. $4,800 deposited, $460 kept. Nadine deposited nothing extra, 0. She moved 4 dates. And this August, the thing that used to break her arrived right on schedule. Electric came in at $268 instead of $180. A hot summer, the window unit running all day in a house nobody's home in. $88 over. In 2021, that exact overage in that exact week is what took the $760 out and ended the plan. It landed on the 17th. Her check had come on the 15th. She paid $268 on a Tuesday morning before her first run, standing in her kitchen with her keys in her hand, and it took 11 seconds. And she was annoyed about the window unit for the rest of the day, and that was the entire event. That's what a solved problem looks like. It's not fireworks, it's a bill that used to be a crisis becoming a chore. And this morning she was back at the timing point on Chalmers Street. Doors open, 3 minutes of hold. Same corner, same clock. 17 years of pulling away from that stop doing arithmetic in her head about the 3rd and the 5th and the 8th. She wasn't doing arithmetic. She was watching 2 girls run across a lawn toward the bus, laughing because they'd almost missed it and hadn't. The money was standing at the stop this time, so she waited for it, and then she drove.
Here's where it goes from here, in plain numbers.
The $172 she used to borrow forward every month doesn't get borrowed anymore. That's $2,064 a year that simply stays. Add the $173 in fees she isn't paying and roughly $140 in card interest she isn't paying, and year one comes to just under $2,400 from a woman who did not earn one additional dollar. Run it 3 years, unchanged, no discipline required, and it's about $7,100. That's the small, boring, upward math of moving 4 dates. But the thing that actually changed isn't in that paragraph. Nadine used to be a person who was trying to save, trying to catch up, trying to be better with money. And trying is a full-time identity that pays nothing. It cost her 17 years of being on duty 6 days a month and a low, constant belief that there was something wrong with her that other people didn't have. Now she's a person whose bills are on her schedule, not because she got stronger, because she stopped being the only one in the arrangement who moved. And here's the part I want to be very clear about. She got that the night she made the calls, not after 3 months of proving herself, not after the $560, not after the $2,400. The identity flipped at minute 22, in a hallway with the mail still on the table. You don't earn this one over time. You get it the moment you do the setup, and everything after that is just the arithmetic catching up to the decision. Now, there's one thing in this video I didn't solve, and you probably noticed it. Nadine's landlord said no. Rent stayed on the 3rd, and rent is the biggest number on almost everybody's calendar, which means for a lot of you, the bill that's actually breaking your week is the one bill that won't move. There is a way to align a payment that refuses to be aligned, but that's a topic for another video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. But before you go, say your collision week out loud. Not what you earn, not what you owe, not the whole embarrassing story, just the week of your month where all the due dates pile up. Which one is it, and how long have you known?